Hello, Deacon Eric here. Well, I know I've been talking about America, but I want to talk about authority. And this can be hard, right? Because America rebelled against its authority. Was it God given authority? Right? That's up for debate. But just the same, I want to talk to young men, especially. Young man, learn if you want to have authority and you want authority of your own life and over whatever sphere of influence you have. If you want authority, you've got to walk under authority. I talked about true liberty, but true liberty is under authority. And that's not just the authority of men. Sometimes there is tyranny that must be thrown off. But the reason the Founding Fathers thought that they were doing the right thing was because they were submitting themselves. The idea, and again, I'm just emphasizing Eric Metaxas' book, he nailed this point home, was that the Founding Fathers, they wanted God as their king. Because they saw the tyranny of an unrighteous king. Now what they didn't do, this is interesting, what they didn't do was try to go and have the King of England killed like the Puritans did before in the English Civil War. They just said, leave us alone. You're not doing right, and we want to submit ourselves to God as king. We want to try this experiment of living like the Israelites did before the kings and being under authority. Now, is the idea of kings bad? Well, at the time, yes, but then David, so there is a king coming, right? But who is that king? That king is Jesus, the son of David. And the only righteous king fully, there was kings that did righteous things, but the measure of a king in Israel was if they lived like David. And David's not perfect by any means, but David lived under the authority of heaven. And his life is an example of how to operate when the authority is wicked. It's interesting because David knew he was the anointed, he would not kill Saul, the other anointed, even though he fled and fought and all this other stuff. He would not put himself completely, he didn't trust the authority, but he still lived under the authority of heaven and he operated under that. Right? Look at guys like the story of Robin Hood, right? This false authority, Prince John, he fought against it because the true authority, King Richard, right? He was fighting, even though he was technically an outlaw, but he was fighting for the poor, but he was also fighting for the restoration of the proper authority. Which is why guys like Jesse James would never, he's just an outlaw. He was never going to raise up to the level like a Robin Hood. So David, Robin Hood, they're very similar, right? But David was God's righteous authority, and God took out Saul. But they were men under authority, and they lived, and there's a freedom that comes from living under authority. And so whether you're a leader or not, you will rise up and become more of a leader if you will seek out. It is good to find righteous leaders, but when you find yourself in a place and you have unrighteous leaders, if you will walk in integrity and you will maintain that integrity through temptations and vices, even if, let's say you're working for a company and you enjoy the work, but your boss is totally wicked. If you will act in a righteous way, two things will happen. Either your righteousness will expose the corruption and you will win the day, or they will kick you out. They will fire you, which will be your freedom. Because even if you like that job, they will rue the day and you will go somewhere else and you will bring your righteousness with you. And you will bring your honor and your integrity with you. So some of you may be looking at guys, you might be looking at Tucker Carlson's and Nick Fuentes and Andrew Tate and these, I can't even remember, there's these other preachers who just are spewing out hate and rebelliousness online. And it's like, stop listening to them. They will not win the day. You don't want to be found on the side that leads to that's the thing. This is what happened with Nazi Germany. You had communists on one side and you had fascists on the other, fighting it out for who was going to win in Germany. And neither was good. But then you had guys like Bonhoeffer who stood up for righteousness. And you know what? He got his crown of glory. And sometimes it comes to that. It might. What if things get so bad that there is no place? All the authority is totally wicked. Which is where the country was heading before Donald Trump, just to be honest. He may not be perfect, but he sure ain't these jokers. He exposed all them. And they're still trying. Well, let's say we got this little time of relief to wake up. And in a few years, the globalists win the day. Or even worse, the Muslims come in full force with their ideas and they take over, right? And they're using guys like Tucker Carlson and others to say, oh, your Muslim overlords won't be so bad. That's crazy talk. No, these are wicked things. But if you will operate in righteousness and goodness, and if you will not give into the temptation to follow them, even if they kill you, even if they put you in prison, you will win the day. You will win the crown of glory for eternity. And that's what I'm fighting for. I'm fighting for my own heart. I'm fighting that my kids might have a righteous example. And that gives me joy and freedom that they can't touch. I want joy and freedom and liberty in my body and in the earth and in the land. Absolutely. And if it comes to it, I'll fight for it. But even if I can't, and they kill me or imprison me or any other number of things, I'm already free here. I'm already free, and I already have spiritual authority by Christ. I'm seated in heavenly places. I'm a man under authority. My prayers command angels to move. Even though the earth gives way, I have joy and freedom in my heart. And that's what I want for you. I want it for all, but man, my heart goes out to young men. As everything seems to be against you, and everything's lying to you and trying to bring you around to its side, and it's trying to make you not trust authority, and you shouldn't trust the government. You shouldn't trust institutions. You can't put your trust in. You never could. We want righteous people in this place, but if we don't self-rule, if we don't live under the authority of heaven ourselves, it's worthless. Right? That's what John Adams and these others said about the Constitution. It's just a piece of paper. It won't save anything if we're not righteous. If we don't have self-rule and self-discipline, and we have no authority, we have no moral high ground if we give it up ourselves. And you have every excuse to. You have every excuse to not trust anybody, to give into nihilism, to give into temptation, and just not care. But if you do that, you won't feel freedom, you won't feel joy. But you can have liberty and freedom in Jesus Christ. I promise you. And you can submit to authority even when it's not righteous sometimes. Even when it does wicked things. Right? And there's a time to flee and there's a time to fight. But you'll know what those are if you're submitted to God. If you're not submitted to God, if you're not under authority and you don't honor authority, you don't respect any kind of authority, and you just want to be autonomous, you'll be enslaved. You'll never be free. But true freedom is being under the authority of heaven. For we do not struggle against flesh and blood. There is a greater fight I'm calling you to. The epic fight of heaven and earth, of all history, the redemption of our bodies, the redemption of all the earth. If you get into that fight, then you'll know what to do in the day or the hour in this fight down here. But if your focus is only down here, and if your focus especially is just here, if you're self-consumed, and you're not living for others, you're not living for the betterment of mankind, you're enslaved, man. Or you'll get pulled off. Because it's the same kind of distrust of authority that led to stuff on the left. And it's this twisted idea of justice. It's wanting justice but without God, right? It's the same spirit in the French Revolution. We want freedom, but freedom from God. We want license, like I said before. And license doesn't lead to freedom. It leads to death and mayhem. And that's what's going to happen if the left wins. Death and mayhem. But even if the left wins, you can be free. You can be untouched by it. That's the call. Lean into Christ. Lean into godly authority. And we will find each other, and we will we will not be alone. But even if you're in a place and you are alone, you can be with Christ and all the angels in heaven and be free in here, and the world cannot touch you. That's the kind of freedom I want, and I pray that on the day of deep temptation to give into fear, I will give into the courage and the bravery that comes from the Lord. And the promise is, I will rule and reign with Christ forevermore. That's what I want, and that's what I want for you. And then, if you live that way, you're more likely to find a righteous woman and have righteous kids and have righteous community. But even if you don't find all those things, you have freedom just in here, and all the world falls apart around you, you will rule and reign with Christ forevermore. No one else promises that. Nobody. May that encourage you today. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May He shine His face upon you and give you His peace.